Oh, Michael, hello. Michael has
Hear
joined from
me?
Singapore.
Can you hear me?
I can. Hello, Tashidale.
Yeah. Sorry. I wear my shirt. Singapore weather is so hot.
Yes, yes.
So is the
Our
Buddha
teacher is
around?
here. Yeah, Kalden is here. We are all here. We're going to start soon.
Oh, that means everyone can hear me. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Please.
Uh,
Yeah. How is yeah.
we're going to start soon.
Yes. Yeah. Then I will keep quiet.
I was in Delhi for some time. Yes. Venerable, I've switched on the video and the audio.
Okay.
Mm.
New microphone, is it?
Yes. Which one?
Hello. Hello.
I think it's working. Venerable.
Hello. Anyways, it's hello. Okay.
Huh? No, it's not.
Maybe you have to increase the gain. Seems to be on. Hello. 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 Hello.
Oh, battery on. Then
Hello. Yeah, okay.
it required your touch.
Hello. Okay. Hope it's not too loud.
It just required the last touch. No, she gave
I know. Yeah. So let's begin. Namo Buddhaya and happy Ugadi to all of you. All those online also, happy Ugadi to you. So we are in the sixth or fifth session of how to be happy.
Third session.
No,
Third
like
session.
again, like that has done
Two.
2 sessions. So there's the fourth session then. I did an online session last week.
Oh, yeah.
So there's the fourth session. Okay.
No, I have been here.
Yeah. Again, like that has done 2. Venerable like that has done 2 sessions. And this is my second. So this will be the fourth session. Yeah? So fourth session of how to be happy, practical advice for everyday life. Yeah. So in the previous session, we had seen how to use meditation as a tool to deal with stress. Yeah. When we had begun the discussion on how meditation helps us in identifying the different, how we can use meditation to identify the different components of our mental continuum. And there's a very important uh, kind of mind that we can identify, which is called volition or intention, and how that kind of decides is at the root of what kind of parts of actions we initiate. So it is at the root of these parts of actions, and these parts of actions then determine what is called karma. Right? So we'll take the discussion further. In today's session, we're going to discuss what kind of different parts of karmic action we can initiate and how we can use our meditation to then shape this mental component called volition or intention. So the session will essentially talk about, it will cover what is the entity of karma and what are the different kinds of karma, varieties of karma. And we'll also look at what are the different results, what kind of results you can expect from different kinds of karmic actions, and then how to kind of shape those karmic actions to ensure that you have good results, both ripened results and also good results in the sense that you have a good conducive environment to ensure that you have the right conditions for happiness. So those are the things that we'll cover into this session. So let's begin the session with our meditation first. So we'll do a short mindfulness meditation. And the purpose of this meditation is, as we've done in the previous session also, observe our mind mostly and see what are the different kinds of mental experiences we have. And then after the meditation session, we'll see if we can identify what different or distinct kinds of minds, flow through our mental continuum. So we'll use the body, specifically the breath, as an anchor for our meditation. So it's a mindfulness of body, mindfulness of breath meditation. And then you will notice that while you're concentrating or keeping your focus on the breath, it kind of drifts away sometimes. But don't stress yourself about that. Just track the mind wherever it goes. Yeah? And whatever kind of mind arises in your mental continuum, just observe it, make a mental note of it, without, either grasping at it because it's a pleasant experience, or if it's an unpleasant experience, letting some sort of an aversion arise in your mind. So just be neutral, in relation to those experiences. Okay, so posture important. Keep your backs erect. Legs could be crossed in the full Padmasana lotus posture. Shoulders straight. Left palm holding the right palm, and the tip of the thumbs touching each other. Tongue just resting behind on the upper row of teeth. Chin slightly tucked in and eyes either half open or closed. And take a moment to just park all the chatter relating to your daily routine and draw your mind towards the subject that we're going to discuss for today's session. And now bring the focus of your mind to the area between the tip of your nose and the upper lip, and observe the sensations that you experience there as you breathe in and breathe out. Now bring the focus of your mind to your in-breath. Observe which nostril you're breathing in through, and observe the sensations that you experience as you breathe in. The warmth, maybe the temperature, the pressure as you breathe in. The sensations that you feel up against the wall of the nostrils. Now observe your out breath as you breathe out. Just notice the sensations that you experience in the other nostril. Now try and observe the entire body of the in-breath and the out-breath. So track the in-breath as it flows through your nostrils, through your throat, into the chest, further below, and track it till the point it reverses into the out-breath. Then track the out-breath as it flows through the lungs, through your throat, through your nostrils, and out of your nose. Observe the movement of your chest as you breathe in and breathe out, and make a mental note of it. If it rises, just note it as rising, rising. If it falls, note it as falling, falling. Do the same for your abdomen as you breathe in and breathe out. If it rises, note it as rising, rising. If it falls, note it as falling, falling. It's possible that your mind drifts away as you observe the movement of the abdomen, in which case you just register where the mind is, make a note. If it's wandering, just note it as wandering, wandering. If it's having a thought, then note it as thinking, thinking. If you're meeting somebody, then note it as meeting, meeting. If you hear something, note it as hearing, hearing. If you see something, note it as seeing, seeing. If you imagine something, just note it as imagining, imagining. So just keep a track of your mind. Don't lose track. It's also possible that while you're observing your mind, there's some discomfort that you experience in your body, maybe in your shoulders, in your back, in your arms, in your legs, knees, thighs, or there's some itching sensation that you experience somewhere. So whatever sensation you experience, just make a note of that sensation. If there's some warmth you experience somewhere, note it as warm, warm. If there's some cooling sensation you experience somewhere, note it as cooling, cooling. If there's some tautness, some tightness that you experience in some part of the body, note it as stiff, stiff. And if the discomfort kind of persists, then you would give rise to a mind that wants to remove that discomfort. So note that mind is wanting to remove the discomfort, wanting, wanting. It's possible that the discomfort will fade away, but if it persists, then your desire to eliminate the discomfort becomes stronger. And with the wanting, then comes action to relieve yourself of the discomfort. So maybe you have to release the tension in your arm, in which case you loosen your arm, you stretch your arm, you straighten your arm. So note all the movements of the arm, loosening, loosening, straightening, straightening. If there's an itching sensation and you want to scratch it, then note the wanting mind as wanting to scratch. And then If there's physical movement that follows, just note the physical movement also. Raising your arm, lifting your finger, bringing it close to the spot where there's the itching sensation. Note all these movements. Now remind yourself of the object of focus of your meditation. So bring the mind back to the breath, in breath and out breath. Track your in breath and out breath. With your mind focused, let's set a good motivation for the session. So let's just do a short bodhicitta motivation. So we'll use the bodhicitta prayer to generate the motivation. So I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my practice of giving and other perfections. May I become Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So let's just discuss your experience in the meditation that we just did. So as I said, it's a mindfulness meditation where we use the breath as the focus. But there are other kinds of mindfulnesses that we could generate. So when the mind drifts away and it kind of wanders and engages with other objects apart from the breath, and you track it, then you cultivate what is called the mindfulness of the mind itself. So the mind is going through different kind of mental episodes, mental events. Yeah. So that would be the mindfulness of the mind. And then, so, yeah, it's not, it kind of switched off. Switched off, or it's a little erratic. Hello.
Like a loose connection. No, it was coming fine and then it just.
Yeah. Hello. Hello, hello. Yeah, there's probably a loose connection with the cable. Even before. Yesterday.
No, this is a new one.
Yeah,
So
even
now
before you got.
it's this one itself. Because we got the
Cable.
wire and it has changed.
Okay. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. No? Maybe you'll just have to get a little closer.
Sorry.
The fan, which
That's
probably, yeah. Okay, it's okay. Then,
Anyway, it's an intimate class.
yeah.
I wonder if the recording will record.
Recording takes the direct. Should be okay, I guess. Hello.
Don't have
Yeah,
the mic.
it's fine. So, okay, so we covered the two bases: mindfulness of the body, kaya nupassana, and then chitta nupassana, which is where we track all the different mental episodes that we have. And then while you were meditating and you experience that there might have been some discomfort in your knee or your back, so you register a feeling, feeling of either a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling or just neutral feelings. So that would be mindfulness of the feelings. So that's the third foundation of mindfulness practice. And then as your meditation kind of evolves and your concentration gets more intense and it develops, then you can actually notice that you're just experiencing a series of discrete mental moments. Each one kind of arises and then it disintegrates, and it's followed by a subsequent moment. That one rises and then that disintegrates. And you observe that process, then you can observe that there's something called impermanence that characterizes the mental experiences that we have. Nothing abides for a second moment. It rises and then it disintegrates. It's in the very nature of the mind to just, not to abide for a second. So if you let your mindfulness meditation evolve to that level, then you would register these things called impermanence. So that would be cultivating the fourth base of mindfulness, which is the mindfulness of phenomena. So these are the four foundations or bases of mindfulness that we can cultivate. So when you are tracking your mind, what were the discrete kind of minds, unique kind of minds, different kinds of minds that you could register? Yeah. Can you give me an example of a cognitive state that you registered? A cognitive kind of mind, as opposed to being an affective or cognitive mind. An example of a cognitive state?
Being awake and being perceptive.
Okay. Perception. Okay.
Perceptive mind.
Perceptive mind. Yeah. Example of a perceptive mind. Some example. Yeah.
Introspection.
Introspection. You're looking into it. So yeah, introspection would be okay. Cognitive state. Yeah. But a specific kind of introspection that you're doing, something that.
Like when you're doing analytical meditation, let's say, then and you're going specifically, let's say, on equanimity.
Right. Like for example, in today's
How is it in my life?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a cognitive kind of mind. Yeah, that's right. So we started with the breath, right? So when you're observing the breath, what are you observing?
You're observing your mind on the breath.
Yeah. So you're observing a sensation, right?
Yes.
So there's a sensation, a physical sensation that you're observing. So it's a tactile mind. It's a tactile consciousness. So it's a cognitive kind of mind. It's observing the entity of that experience. Yeah. So that's an example of a cognitive state. Now, within a cognitive state, you could think about a mind that is perceptual and a non-perceptual mind, or a conceptual, non-conceptual mind. So can you think about a perceptual mind and a non-perceptual mind, or conceptual, non-conceptual?
Again, would that connect to analytical meditation?
Uh-huh.
When is the discernment comes in, that the perception?
Yeah, that would be conceptual, yeah, not perceptual. So the breath itself, when you're observing the breath, since it's a tactile consciousness, it's a perception. It's a direct perception. Yeah. Sensation. You're observing a sensation, right? So, sorry, yeah, smells, yeah. So there are flowers here. If you're sensitive enough, I can't smell the flowers here. Did anyone smell the flowers? Yeah, if you were able to smell
sound, like
sound,
I think
yes.
Aban must have come in.
Yes, yeah.
I registered.
Yes, somebody walked in. Yeah. So you registered that sound, right? So the sound is when you register the sound, the consciousness that registered the sound is a perceptual mind. Yeah.
When you have a meditation that is partly disturbed, let's say, and you kind of go into a dream state, like when you're sleeping, I experience these kind of dream states when it's afternoon or something, like when you're jumping from one topic to the other, to another, and it's really like not in one proper flow.
Yeah.
That would not be a cognitive. That would be
No, that also will have
not,
that will also have cognitive elements to it. Cognitive is essentially just
using of the mind.
Mind that registered the mere entity of the
First part of my meditation was deep sleep. In that
Yeah.
sense, I was in a dream kind of a thing.
Yeah, so it's mostly thought. What you're having is thought consciousness, mental consciousness. So what we are discussing here, perceptual minds. Perceptual, and in case of people like us, it's mostly sensorial. The sense consciousnesses that we register. So you spoke about the sound, right? Sound is an example of the sensorial consciousness. It's a perception, direct perception. The smell of the flowers, if you can smell it, it's an example of a sensorial consciousness. The sensation that we experience of the in-breath and the out-breath is a tactile consciousness. Did you have an experience of a visual consciousness? Yeah, if you have your eyes closed, then if you had your eyes open, then you would have registered some visual form.
But what is it that you see?
Yeah, so are those perceptions or non-perceptions? Yeah, so they are not perceptions. Yeah, they're cognitive states, but not perceptual. They're conceptual. Yeah, so for example, you were meditating and sometime you registered your house. You saw an image of your house or your room. Yeah. Yeah, it is the sound of the fan. So when you're realizing the house. So you're recognizing the object, but through an image of the object and not the actual object. So that's a conceptual state. It's a mental consciousness, not a sensorial consciousness, but it's still a cognitive state as opposed to being an affective state. So
affective and emotions.
Emotions, yeah, emotions. We're trying to kind of separate between.
Doesn't register.
Yeah. So we'll come to that. Yeah. So the minds will have a cognitive aspect to it and an affective aspect to it also. So I'm just trying to bring out the distinction between what is a purely cognitive state, which just recognizes the entity of the object, and something that also registers a feeling associated with that object and hence triggers some sort of an emotional response from our side. So that would be the emotional kind of mind. So sensorial objects, you have sound, you have visual forms or colors, and then you have smells, and then you have tactile consciousness and taste. Yeah. So taste would be difficult in our case because you actually have to have something placed on your tongue to register that kind of a consciousness. But these are examples of sensorial consciousnesses. So these are all direct perceptions. Direct perception. You don't use the intermediation of an image to recognize these objects. Directly accessible to our sense consciousnesses, sensory organs rather. As opposed to this recognition that you would have of a house through the image of the house. You don't actually see. The house is what kind of object is it? It's a visual object, right? It's a visual object. So it can trigger a visual perception if you see it directly. But in this case, you're sitting in your meditation and you recollect an image, and through that you have a recognition of your house. So that's a conceptual realization of the house. It's realizing the house, it's recognizing the house, but it's a conceptual mind. So that's a mental consciousnness, a thought consciousness, not a perception, not a direct perception. So
but you can also have, like, I know what happened to me was I heard the sound of someone walking in, and then my mind saw Aban.
Yes.
Like I just sort
Yes.
of inferred that it
Yes.
was Aban.
Yes.
Or like, and then the image of Aban, because Aban dresses in a particular
Yes.
way.
Yes.
So an image of Aban, very, very fleeting, not
Correct.
that I was sitting and
Yeah.
sort of visualizing her for a long time. But like all of that went through my mind. Sound, then someone's come in, might be Aban, and then some kind of a perception of Aban in the way she dresses, and or maybe pulling the chair or something.
Correct. So that's a different kind of mind, yeah?
Okay.
You're right. I mean, it's an important category of mind. It's called an inferential cognition. So you inferred, you didn't see Aban, right? You heard a sound. You heard the sound and you use that sound as a sign to infer, you kind of established a connection between that sound and Aban. And you recognized the existence of Aban through that sign. So it's a inferential mind, inferential cognition. It's a cognitive state, but unlike seeing a visual form and then inferring, okay, I see this visual form and I recognize it as a bottle. Instead of that, you use a sign. The sign is a sensation again. It's a direct perception where in your case, the sign is in the nature of a sound. And you associate that sound with Aban's movements, yeah? And from that connection, you recognize that, okay, Aban is in the room, yeah? So that's an inferential cognition. So similarly, when you heard a sound of a vehicle passing by, we heard sounds, right? There were vehicles passing by. And you recognize that there's a rickshaw on the road. How do you do that? You didn't see the rickshaw, right? The rickshaw is a visual object, isn't it? So it has to be recognized. If it was a direct perception, then it has to be realized by seeing the form, the shape, and the color of that object. But here we didn't see the form of the object. But yet we recognize that there's a rickshaw. How? Because we heard a sound. The sound fell on our ear organ and it registered the sound. And then it established a connection. Okay, this frequency, this strength, this amplitude of this sound. And from our previous experience, you realize that, okay, this is the sound of a rickshaw, not of a motorcycle. Yeah. In some other cases, you might register a sound which is different. And then you could be infer that, oh, it's a motorcycle. But that is because of the connection that you established, the relationship between that sound and that object. So through the sign of the sound, you're establishing the existence of a rickshaw. So that is an inference. It's an inferential cognition. So two main kinds of cognitive minds. You have perceptions, direct perceptions, and then there are inferences. Yeah. And inference is a very, very important kind of mind. When we speak about realizing emptiness or impermanence, the beginning point is an inference. You use all kinds of inferences to establish that a phenomena is impermanent or a phenomena lacks inherent existence. So a very important category. And also that's one distinction. And we also spoke about perceptions and conceptions. Yeah? So there's a sensorial perception. There could also be non-sensorial perceptions. If your meditation advances sufficiently and you cultivate what is called a union of single-pointed concentration, which is shamatha, and analytical insight, which is vipassana. Combine those two, then you can actually directly see phenomena like impermanence and emptiness. Like we see visual form with your eyes, you can actually see impermanence without any sign directly.
Realization.
Oh, that is a direct perception, but it's a mental consciousness. It's a realization of subtle phenomena like impermanence and emptiness. But
So direct perception. Direct perception equals to realization.
No, like for example, I have direct perception of this bottle. I realize this bottle. It's not a subtle phenomenon. It's a gross entity. So there is realization. Any mind you think about has some realization. But the realization that you're talking about is higher kind of realizations. Yeah, subtle phenomena. Any mind has to realize its object.
Is that
sorry?
Is that Thubten?
What's that?
Thubten, they say into
Thubten is emptiness.
That's not direct realization.
No, direct realization of emptiness. You speak about direct realization of impermanence. You speak about direct realization of emptiness. Subtle phenomena, which is not, accessible to a regular kind of sensory organ or even a regular mental organ. We have mental consciousnesses which are not directly perceiving subtle phenomena. We perceive like the house that you realized. That's the mental consciousness. It's realizing the house. But the house is a gross phenomenon. It's not realizing a subtle phenomenon. Yeah.
Realization would be mostly would be yogic direct perceiver.
Yeah. Mostly, yeah. That's what we're
Personal experience.
Personal experience.
Realization.
No, realization, they're talking about realization of subtle entities,
Yes.
like subtle properties of phenomena, like impermanence and emptiness. Yeah, it has to be your own. Yeah, it has to be your own. But it begins with inferences mostly. It's the starting point is, you study things, you contemplate, you reflect, and then you realize that there is a sign through which you can infer the existence of a certain phenomena. But that sign has to be valid. Then you go through, all kinds of reasoning to establish whether the sign is a valid sign to infer the existence of this. It starts as inferential consciousness. And then you meditate using that inferential consciousness. And at some point, your mental organ, because it is a fusion of shamatha and vipassana, gets very intense and concentrated. And you can have a direct perception of these subtle phenomena. So it kind of begins with an inferential cognition, and then translates into a direct perception of subtle phenomena. Okay, yeah.
When we are seeing direct, but I think in some point, it is still how things will appear even to these enlightened or with these beings who are able to be see. We are saying that to see it directly, but I think till some point, till not the cognitive obscurations are removed, they still see things as we see, right? It's just that they are able to apprehend it in the right.
Yeah. So in meditative state, they would have a direct perception. But once they step out of the meditation sessions, they'll have perception like we do. Yeah. A conceptual realization. But because it is deeply ingrained in their mindset, they would still realize things as being empty. But they won't see things as empty in the nature of a direct perception. It will be a conception. Once they remove the cognitive obscurations, even that translates into a direct perception. So, okay. So
just going, you mean like if you have realized, so you'll see me and you'll see that I'm impermanent. You'll
yes.
see the mic and you'll realize it's impermanent.
Yeah.
So you just go through your life experiencing things, but knowing very, very deeply that that's not happening.
Yeah.
Or that's not there or something.
Or not there. It is there, but not the way it appears to you normally. It appears as being permanent to me. Yeah.
As a solid entity.
As a solid entity. It's the abiding entity. And the only impermanence that you associate with this gross phenomena is that, okay, after 200 years, maybe it will disintegrate. But that's a gross kind of impermanence. The impermanence that we are talking about is moment to moment disintegration. Yeah. So when you cultivate that kind of a meditative capacity, you can actually see that kind of impermanence where things are transforming every moment. So in order for this thing to disintegrate after 200 years, it has to be disintegrating every moment. Yeah, it can't just be abiding for one patch of time and then suddenly disintegrate. Yeah, but that moment to moment disintegration is not visible to us. But with the mind, which is a fusion of shamatha and vipassana, you can actually see the momentary disintegration of phenomena and see the impermanence. Yeah.
Well, I struggled with the meditation.
Yes.
I don't think I even came to for more than maybe a minute that I could feel the sensation.
Very good. Minute is a long enough duration.
I don't think I did.
That's good enough. Yeah.
I went into a movie-like state.
Yes.
Where I don't know if I was half asleep and dreaming or whether I was telling myself, no, you have to meditate.
Yes.
Because every time your voice guidance came, oh yeah, I have to meditate. But then it felt like I have no control. So I saw my colleague telling me something. Then it felt like I was in a movie chase somewhere. Then it was something. It was very fluid, but it was not even. So would in the Shamata's map of the three animals going up, would that be a monkey and also falling asleep? So would that be the monkey state, monkey mind, or the elephant?
All of us are in the monkey state. Yes, don't worry about that. If we can hold on to an object for a few seconds, it's a good sign. So, but as I said, the objective of our meditation was to note where the mind is. So as long as you're able to track where the mind is, anchor was of course the breath. So as long as you are able to note what kind of mental states were arising in mind's mental continuum, I think that should be fine. But as you develop, I think it will get a little better. You'll be able to hold on to the meditation object for a couple of minutes or more, at least. Yeah.
So, Venerable, this is what happens to me regularly, and it happened today as well. As long as I'm focusing on something, like in today, breath, then my mind tends to wander.
Yes.
Like, you know, and I have to constantly bring it back to the breath, bring it back to the breath. But when I do what you told us, the observe the mind, or what they call open awareness in some, like, you know, then I realize, then nothing comes up. And I'm like thinking, something, I'm observing, something should come up. What's coming up? But nothing, as long as I'm open, holding on to open awareness, almost nothing comes up. And I'm like waiting for something to come up so I can say, oh, anger, oh, something, you know. Sensory, yes, I recognize, but only like sound and, you know, whatever. But the moment I let go of open awareness and focus on any object, like my breath, let's say, or sound or something, then of course my mind starts its journey here and there. How strange. And it's not the first time. It happens to me like irregularly in my practice.
Yeah. It happens with everybody. It's not only yours.
So why when you're observing the mind, why doesn't, like, then just it seems like it dries up?
Yeah, because we are not used to keeping our mind focused onto a certain object. You know, it has this tendency to want to go towards objects that it finds appealing. Yeah. So observing the breath, after a while, it kind of generates some sort of internal stress. You know, you're kind of forcing your mind to be where it's not wanting to be.
Right.
And that stress then kind of triggers this response where it seeks some sort of appealing object somewhere else. Yeah, so it thinks about something, some friendly conversation you had with somebody, which kind of, you know, you found pleasant, so you recollect that kind of conversation, or maybe food, something or the other that it considers to be appealing, and it kind of moves towards that. But yeah, today's meditation was to even let the mind flow, just observe where it is, and just make a note of what different kinds of mental experiences you're having. So anchor is breath. To the extent possible, keep it there. But if it's drifted away and wandered into some other direction, just make a note where it's going. Yeah. So if you've had that, you were able to track it, then it's okay. It's okay. But with time, as I said, with time, you'll be able to lengthen the duration for which you can keep your mind on the breath itself. We are not used to it. That's what. Yeah, once again, Dipti had a question.
Then when we talk about practical Buddhism, for people who are very lay, not practitioners of Buddhism, then sleep is very important. All of us are deprived of sleep. We are in sleep debt as working individuals. So sleep is very important for a good meditation.
Yeah.
Right? Though, because I'm also thinking, connecting it to His Holiness's statement where he says sleep is the best meditation. His Holiness says. So I don't know if it is someone who said it and said it's attributed to His Holiness. If you want to become a good meditator who has a control of their meditation process, which later impacts their body, because there's such a connection between mind and body.
Yes.
Then how is it possible when you are sleep deprived?
Yeah, if you sleep deprived, then
it's like there is no way you can when you're working from I don't know, from 4 in the evening all the way to 4 in the morning, like one our director does, you're waking up Like, so there is no way that you can be a good meditator. So what is the most practical advice for something?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, most of us, with the kind of schedules we have, and we're always deprived of sleep. There's always a sleep deficit. Yeah.
Affects every part of your life.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, not just. So, I mean, you can start with shorter durations of meditation, just maybe 2-3 minutes, or 4 minutes, or 5 minutes. Or you don't have to kind of, make yourself sit in one place, cross-legged. And you could be traveling in a car, and just make sure that your back is erect. Just uh, adopt a minimum kind of posture requirement, and then try and reflect, look inwards. Yeah, of 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes.
So my question then will actually maybe I was not clear. When you fall asleep immediately when you get into a state of meditation, and I've caught myself like trying to meditate on the school bus, but maybe I'm snoring. I don't
So
know.
yeah,
So how is it that you can?
one of the things that that's mentioned when we speak about the posture is to keep your eyes half open. Yeah, if you keep your eyes half open, then it cuts out the distractions also, and it also ensures that you don't fall asleep. And the other thing is keeping your tongue just resting behind the teeth. Yeah, even that prevents you from dozing off completely. And if you're dozing off because of the meditation, it's not a bad sign. At least the meditation is helping you relax, calm your nerves a little bit, and helping your body to relax a little bit. Yeah. So he had a question. Oh, okay.
Uh, Sometimes I think we can just do the meditation while we're doing certain things. Like
Yes.
the one that you guided very well, the awareness part.
Yeah.
I tend to do it when I'm in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like how I'm cooking.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now I'm, cutting
Yes.
and then I'm stirring. Only when I'm a little stable, then I take it to how I'm feeling also.
Yeah. Mhm.
It takes some time. So
Yes.
just pouring the water and doing all that, it gives a little bit of a way. So it's a beautiful way to just integrate
Yeah.
meditation.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
When I start to see my feelings also. Am I irritated doing this,
Yeah.
cutting and all,
Yeah.
or at least I can
Correct.
change it, or how am I feeling?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So you can identify some, free slots in your schedule to do a minute, 2 minutes worth of meditation. Slowly, I think you'll develop some liking for it. Then you'd want to spend a little more time with it. See, all of us are kind of struggling with that phase where it looks like a task for us to be done. Yeah. It's not something that we want to do.
It's actually to put others first and then yourself. Do meditation, for example.
Mm.
And in my case, let's say physical exercise is very important.
Mm.
But like, okay, I have to first do this. You never tend to look at yourself as
Yeah.
requirement.
Yeah, but it's
requirements just occupy
Yeah.
all your time.
Yeah. But it's important to look inwards. I think that will enhance the other things that you're talking about, your ability to deal with the other tasks. The more you spend time with observing where your mind is, developing this kind of mindfulness, it will help us in conducting our other tasks more effectively.
Also, I've realized for myself, I prioritize tasks many times in order to not do something. Like, so if I don't want to, like deep inside, meditation is a challenge. So I'll say, oh, now let me finish this first, let me finish that first. Then it comes to a point where I've finished all the chores, but then I've run out of time because I have to go somewhere. So then I'll say, oh, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But
It's your own procrastination.
I have more than that. Like it took me so much time to realize that I was actually doing that. It took me, I think, months to realize that. And then once I realized it, then I sort of tried to take myself in hand and say, no, and when I really saw it was some of those tasks could well wait till much later. But I would do that. So that helped, just seeing it for myself, what I was doing, helped in doing it slightly more regularly. When this happens to me, and it happens so frequently, I put it down to Mara. And the moment I think this is Mara trying to get me to not, it just disappears. It just disappears. The recognition of it.
Yeah, this kind of personification also helps, at times. Yeah, offers a, the personification helps, but you need to be aware that it's your own internal Mara.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
So there is a saying like be in the present moment, right?
Yes.
So today you have explained about the meditation and
Yes.
how we are doing analysis,
Yes.
perception and conception.
Yes.
So while we are sitting in a home, like in a room, we are able to hear some certain sounds outside, right?
Yes.
And we are able to recognize what the sound could be.
Yes.
So even if we are not doing a meditation, we are still doing this task always, right? So what is the idea and objective behind this? Like if you are doing a meditation, what we are trying to benefit out of meditation over, while doing even without actually terming as a meditation.
Yes. So, in our regular course of the day, you do register these kind of sounds. Yeah. But is that meditation? Of course, that's not. What's happening is when you're forcing, or rather you sit down and you, train yourself to observe what different mental experiences you're having. You cultivate this ability to be with the mind wherever it is. Yeah. Most of the times, the kind of experience that you spoke about, of course, there may be moments when you register the sound of a rickshaw and recognize that it's a rickshaw sound. But a lot of these experiences will, register as what we call minds, where the object appears to the mind, but is not ascertained, it's not recognized. So we are kind of an absent-minded kind of state. So most of the stimuli that's there in the environment, we do not register it because we are not there in the moment. And that compromises our ability to deal with those stimuli. And our responses in relation to those stimuli then are compromised. So with
Because we are aware of sight, no,
We're not aware
sounds.
of
What are the
So,
what
for
is the kind of
example,
stuff that you are
for
not
example,
aware
I'll give you an example. I see a beautiful form, right? And my eye consciousness is occupied with observing that beautiful form. In the environment, there are all kinds of sounds that are in the background. Those sounds appear to my ear organ, but I do not register those sounds because I'm preoccupied with this visual form here. It's
when we're talking about meditation for neurodivergent kids. There's so many around us. And they're neurotypical in that sense, sensations are not important.
Yeah.
Right? But there are some neurodivergent kids with a very acute awareness of things. I worked with a student who was sitting and suddenly at around 11 o'clock would do this self-soothing movement and then would say chai, 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 chai. And would say, first time I encountered this, I said, what is happening? Does he want tea? Does he something? Then this child has like about 2 kilometers away from where we were in that school. He is a train station. So for him, every incentive is train, railway. So, but he's able to hear that Shatabdi or whatever, Shatabdi or something coming at 11 o'clock. He knows the time schedule. So every time he would say that, and he would say they would hear that, and that is so super. But we are not able to, and so.
So he could hear the Shatabdi.
Yeah, he can hear
If
all
your
the
mind
time. And every time a train comes, he would
everything around you.
right.
Every color, every sound, every person, everything, all your
So
memories. It's not
objective
possible.
of the meditation exercise is to have control over how the mind is interacting with these stimuli. Most of the stimuli we do not register. Yeah, and that, as I said, it compromises our ability to respond to them. So with mindfulness, you're aware where your mind is. You want your mind to be focusing on the breath, and if it's drifted and it's registering something else, then you, first of all, you realize with another aspect of the mind, which is called vigilance, that it's drifted away from the focus of meditation and it's gone to some other object. And then mindfulness reminds the mind that the breath is the anchor object and it brings it back to. So you're aware of what's happening. Right now, we're not aware of what the mind is doing. So we're kind of just reacting to our environment. So that propensity to be reactive, that is very damaging. Yeah? We just react to all kinds of unnecessary stimuli, and we do not react to those stimuli that needs to be responded.
Today in Bangalore, what is the challenges like? crossing the roads, because so many directions people are coming opposite that. So it is like it's very difficult to cross the even busy roads.
Yeah. So just imagine if you were not aware of that environment there. You
just imagine if you are aware of everything.
Yeah.
And not what you
are supposed to do. Yeah.
That's the point
Yeah.
I'm trying to do.
Correct.
Even one small awareness goes away, something
Of course.
Okay, now another component of the mind, we'll maybe pause in under 5 minutes. Yeah, something that I wanted to discuss because the rest of the discussion follows from there. So as you were meditating, there's some pain that you experience in your knees or your thighs or your arms, shoulder. So that is another kind of mind. Yeah. It starts off by registering what is called a feeling. So the feeling could be a pleasant feeling or an unpleasant feeling or just a neutral kind of. And we have a propensity to kind of be drawn towards a feeling that is pleasant, to kind of run away from a feeling that is unpleasant. And neutral feelings, of course, you do not respond to that that effectively. So if there's pain that is registered, it is registered as a feeling. Yeah? And feeling is what is called a mental factor. So what is registered is a sensation in the knee. So let's say there's an itch in the knee area. So the mind registers the sensation in the knee area. So it registers the sensation. So that's the main mind. It's a tactile consciousness. And along with that, it also registers a feeling that comes with that sensation, which is unpleasant. Yeah. So the feeling is kind of going hand in hand with the main mind, which is recognizing the mere entity of that sensation. So feeling is what we call a mental factor, and it is ever present with the main mind. So whatever object you perceive, whether it's a perception or a conception, you'll always have something called a feeling that goes along with it, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Yeah. And then based on that, if the feeling is pleasant, then you want more of that experience. Yeah. So, and if the feeling is unpleasant, you develop something like irritation. Yeah. You want to eliminate the source of that unpleasant feeling. So that irritation could then become stronger if it persists. It could take on the form of anger. So anger, irritation, or being drawn towards the pleasant object, these are the affective states of mind. Yeah. So they go with the main mind. Yeah. And the feeling is what is drawing them. So if it's a pleasant object, then you want to engage with that object. So you're drawn towards that object. You desire that object. If the desire becomes stronger, then it takes on the form of craving for that object. You want to own that object. So you grasp at that object. Similarly, if the feeling is unpleasant, you want to move away from that object. Yeah, the moving away, the desire to move away could take on a slightly stronger form. So irritation. There may be anger, a more malicious form of anger, hatred for that object. So hatred, anger, these malicious states, or desire, craving, grasping, these are what I call the cognitive or affective or the emotional states of the mind. Yeah. So they go along with the main mind. So these are called mental factors, or in Sanskrit we call them chetasika. And the main mind is the chitta, of course. So chitta and chetasika. Yeah. Feeling is a mental factor, so it's a chetasika. But it is ever present with the main mind. Whereas desire, anger, these are emotive states. They may be present sometimes, maybe not present. I'm saying. So they're not always present, but feeling is always present. So feeling is what is called an omnipresent mental factor. Now there's another thing I asked you to register. So let's say there's a itching sensation that you registered. And if the itching sensation persists, then you want to do something about it. And then you raise your arm and you scratch it. And with the scratching, maybe the itching sensation vanishes. So that action of raising your arm, scratching it and eliminating the itching sensation, it all began with wanting to deal with the itching sensation. So that mind which wants to do something is a mind which we call volition or intention. So that is also an important mental component in our mental component in our mind streams. So again, that is a mental factor, intention, volition, and it is also ever present in our mind stream. So whatever realization we have, along with the main mind, which realizes just the mere entity of the phenomena, the intention or the volition also kind of rises along with it. So feeling and intention is called chetna. Yeah. And chetna is very important because then that starts a engagement with the object. And that engagement, if the intention is not shaped by some sort of an underlying wisdom or wisdom framework that you may have evolved for yourself through contemplation in the past, it could take on an unwholesome form. It could trigger unwholesome actions. And the actions are triggered through or executed through three doors of your body, your speech, and your mind. Yeah. And that's what then starts the karmic process, the karmic action. So any motivated action that you initiate takes on the form of a karmic action. And the three doors of the body, the speech, and the mind are used to execute this karmic action. So we'll pause here. We'll
Volition is ever present, you're saying?
Volition is ever present in the case.
That is the mental factor for karma, isn't it?
Yeah. So that it's intention itself is
something. Is all right, then the feeling follows anyway later, but the volition is
yeah, it
not
is
there.
it is ever present in the mind stream.
Yeah.
Every mind would have a volition. Yeah. Volition state. If it's a neutral sensation and you decide not to do anything about it, that's also a volitional state, right?
I have a question.
Yes.
Regarding people, like when we are um, typical, let's say, and everything that we are doing, we don't have any kind of mental, we all have delusions, but it's not severe. We are doing things that are kind to the nature and everything. But let's say a mind that is struggling with addiction, where there is a craving, there is so much of, I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more kind of thing. What happens to the intention and volition at that time? How is that? Why is that affected so much?
So
and
yeah.
Is it because the body is affecting the mind there, or is this some? Because the body is the one that's craving the next thing. How is? I thought it was always the mind that was affecting the body.
It starts with the mind. It starts with that volition where he is drawn towards that object. Starts with the feeling. Feeling is pleasant. Yeah, it's giving him pleasant experience. And he wants more of that pleasant experience. Want. Yeah. So the intention to to make sure that that experience is prolonged, that initiates his action. So then he desires that source of that pleasant feeling, and the desire then becomes stronger. He craves that source. Craving becomes stronger. He grasps at that source. He wants to possess, own it. Yeah, make it its own. And that process is perpetuated because he's not doing anything to check it. Yeah, he's doing nothing, absolutely nothing to check it. Yeah. So if he has to if meditation is to be used as a tool to do that, then he has to start and observing what his volitional states are, what his intentions. We'll pause here. Yeah. Maybe this. Okay. Online also. We'll pause here for a moment and 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Yeah. We'll reassemble in 10 minutes. I paused the recording. Or is it recording already?
Hi everyone, we'll start now. Audio, video, everything is on and recording is on.
So this mental factor of intention or volition, very important. It's a central force in how our mind reacts to the different stimuli it deals with. So if uncontrolled, it's kind of drawn drawn and pulled by forces of desire or aversion or maybe delusion. And so these are the three main forces that decide which direction the mind is drawn in. But if we are able to kind of regulate it, and then we can use that mental factor to drive actions which are more wise and driven by wisdom and compassion. So that desire, aversion, and delusion.
Kleshas.
The root kleshas, yeah. So they're very powerful and they draw the mind in their direction. And if not careful, the intention that triggers actions which should be unwholesome, mostly driven by these afflictions of desire and delusion and aversion. Yeah. So what are the different kinds of actions that this mental factor of volition triggers then? So when you speak about karma, it would be nice to first of all understand what is the entity, what is the definition of karma, and then try and understand it better by understanding its various categories, various types, classifications, divisions. And then you can also refine your understanding of karma by understanding the different kinds of results it kind of leads to. There are results that ripen in the form of what physical form you take, or which environment you're born in, or the kind of behavioral tendencies that you have, dispositions you have. So there are these different kinds of environmental factors or behavioral factors that result from what kind of karma you created. And then we'll see how we can shape this volition to ensure that we have the right conditions in the future to ensure our happiness. So what are the main paths through which intention kind of shapes our actions? What are the main doors? The three doors of body, speech, and mind. Yeah. And within that, there are specific kinds of actions that have been kind of, identified as actions that determine karma that would be responsible for us to either experience suffering in the future or happiness in the future. So through the door of the body, we engage in three kinds of unwholesome actions. So what are those unwholesome actions of the body?
Body killing, stealing, sexual
conduct. Yeah. And then with speech?
Lying, slander,
Yes.
harsh speech, and gossip.
Yes, yeah. And with the mind?
Covetousness, wrong view,
harmful intent, yes, and malicious intent. So those are the 10 non-virtuous and wholesome actions that we typically engage in, which are then responsible for negative karma, seeds of negative karma being deposited in our mind stream, which then ripen and then become the cause of our suffering in the future. It's not the only, these are not the only kind of karmic actions that we engage in, but these are the more gross and the more frequent kind of actions that we engage in. And the opposite of these would be, refraining from doing these actions and, totally abandoning these kind of actions, which would then lead to virtuous positive karma, which would then become the cause of us experiencing happiness in the future. So these are the three main doors through which we accumulate karma. And when we speak about karma, there are certain
unique properties of the law of karma that we saw is, in the previous sessions. Can you recollect what properties of karma we saw in the previous session? What were the properties, attributes of karma?
Karma cannot be transferred.
Oh yeah, that's
Karma is expanded.
yes, expandable.
Once a karma is
Created, it cannot be
cannot
erased. Yes. So yeah,
I
it
mean,
cannot
in
be
the sense
erased.
the bad karma, if you have
Yeah.
burnt the effects of the bad
Yeah.
karma, then you can't.
So there are four
For
essential
example-
properties of the law of karma. It's congruous, then it's amplifiable, expanded, it cannot be erased, non-erasable. And you can say that
It cannot be erased.
it cannot be.
But you can
Like,
purify.
for example,
It can be purified if not attended to, if you do not engage in proper actions.
Like, I remember all of the teachers.
On its
I-
own, it cannot be erased. On its own.
Oh, no, but then when, for example, when Lama Zopa Rinpoche was talking about hell beings, then they would say that once you're not permanently as a hell being, because one day that karma will run out and then you can
Yeah, so it's already ripened, right?
ripen.
It's ripened and it's fructified, it's yielded its fruit. So the karma is, it's finished. Yeah. So
when it's ripened, it goes up.
yeah,
But till it ripens, it's not erased.
not erasable if you do not attend to it. You can purify
Yeah.
karma. Yeah. If you don't do anything to purify it, it will ripen. So on its own, it does not disappear. On its own, it does not fade
So
away.
time is the most important.
Not this time.
In time.
It's your actions. Yeah. Action. If you commit a negative action and you're aware of it, and you do something immediately to purify it, then it won't ripen. Yeah. It's like a dry seed. You do not give it the appropriate conditions to ripen in the future. So you are kind of manipulating the conditions. Although the seed has been created because of your negative action, it does not meet with the appropriate conditions to ripen in the future. So four properties, congruous. What do you mean by congruous? Any congruous? Congruent, as in it is similar, it is proportionate and similar.
To the result.
Yeah,
To the
so
action.
yes. So if you engage in a virtuous action, then happiness is the experience that you have. Non-virtuous action.
That's the analogy of the mango seed and the mango tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A non-virtuous action, unwholesome action will yield suffering. And when that relationship cannot be altered. So we spoke about an example where a monk, in his previous life, he was a porter, a coolie, and he was working on a temple site. And he happened to criticize the king for commissioning the project. So he criticized the king, saying, why does he need to build such a large temple or stupa? And then later on, he regretted that action. And he realized that that is a medium for people to engage in virtuous actions. And then he donated a bell to the temple. So he was born in the future with an ugly kind of form, but a very sweet, melodious voice. So the virtuous action of donating a bell led to his having a melodious voice, but having criticized the temple, he was born with a
I had this question last time. I didn't answer it. I remember now. So in today's life, let's say someone's building any place of work, church, mosque, temple, Buddhist temple, whatever, and maybe causing a lot of discomfort to, like traffic or the dust and the sound and everything. And we might, right, criticize, saying, oh God, they're making so much noise, or like, and stuff like that. Like, I know I'm guilty of saying temples popping up by the, like whatever, mushrooming everywhere, not a single hospital inside. So all that will lead to...
Not necessarily. If it is a project which is not rooted in the larger good of the community and the society.
Who decides the larger?
Yeah, so it's up to the person who is kind of analyzing, assessing its birth, its utility. Nobody is going to come and tell you, okay, these are the points, positive points, and this is the balance sheet for the temple. We'll have to take that call. But even there, it's not very helpful for us to be critical overtly, I guess. Again, maybe we'll have to take that call. So, yeah, if it helps to be critical overtly, do something about the project and ensure that the larger good is being addressed, then maybe, yeah, it's worthwhile being critical. If not, then it's just kind of making your mind stream a little turbulent, volatile, and you're not able to act on it. Yeah. So,
And also in your
there's no black and white kind of response.
in your example, the porter, he was only a porter.
Yeah.
It's not as though he had any capacity to cause any major harm to a king.
Yeah.
And maybe it was like he was doing of course, he was getting his bread and butter through that project.
Yeah.
But he was also doing the hard labor of carrying that material, and like it was physically, I'm sure, arduous for him.
Yeah.
So it seemed to me something so out of proportion with he criticized. He didn't go and, obstruct it or anything like that. So the whatever the result that is the karma that he suffered due to what just seemed to me a very
disproportionate.
It seems actually correct that karma is a bit uncompassionate. If someone says something like that in the street, you understand where they're coming from. Why is it like?
Yeah, it's the law.
It's just an analogy.
It's an analogy to just highlight, there are two aspects to his behavior, his conduct. There's something that is positive, there's something that is negative. So the positive leads to a happy experience. The negative leads to a suffering experience. That's the only relation that is being established here. How much negative do you have to go to experience that kind of a negative way? That is, that relationship can be only assessed by Buddha's mind. But we can identify the broad contours of the principle of karma. Here it's just, isolating, taking this example and identifying the contours of the principle of karma. How much amount of negative, unwholesome deed will lead to this kind of a negative experience? That I don't think is possible for us to get a grasp. So you're right. I mean, it does appear a little disproportionate, but maybe not just being critical. His being critical about the project also compromises his ability to kind of contribute positively to the construction of the temple or something, more than just being critical about the project. Maybe that's something that.
And you could criticize more and then create a network effect.
Yes, you can share that criticism with the other people, and that it leads to gossip so criticism, if not valid, it has its own negative energy. Yeah. So that's the first principle, being congruous. The second one was amplifiable. Yeah. So example of amplifiability of karma. Anything?
Then I'm just quoting what Kyabji Lamazopa Rinpoche used to say. Maybe because he wanted us to practice Vajrasattva meditation. He would say, even if you step on an ant, if you don't purify, you actually, whether you have an intention to hurt it or not, you have harmed the ant.
Yes.
If you don't purify it, and if you don't humble yourself and say, I have maybe caused something, then that multiplies to, if you don't purify it for 18 days or 19 days, then it can feel like the karma is like you harmed a human being.
Yeah.
And then it can go on and on and on because you have not considered the hurt that you have caused something.
Yeah.
And on a daily basis, intentionally or unintentionally, you are causing harm. So I think it was basically a way of them telling us that purify.
Be mindful about
physics, isn't it?
So what is amplifiable?
So what she just said, like this example we
if you step on an ant, and you don't purify it immediately, in 19 days it becomes like it's.
So it kind of doubles every day.
Then I must be a mass killer because
I
have.
No, but the thing is, I think is of the attitude of the mind in that scenario, saying that I'm going so blissfully unaware that there are beings, sentient beings around that I'm not. That humans sometimes have this arrogance that we just follow our path and our work is more important and all that. And in the path, we are actually hurting and we're not being mindful of how we are actually affecting them.
So whether it's a tiny ant or a louse or a mosquito, it's still alive. Yeah, it's still a sentient being. Yeah, when you kill it intentionally, let's say, intentionally, and you don't do anything to purify that action, then it's said that with every passing day, the negativity kind of doubles every passing day. And on the 15th day, it would be the equivalent of having taken the life of a human. Yeah.
I
So
suppose it's in the terms of that your arrogance keeps growing, that I can do whatever I want. and
that also, yeah.
that
That
is
tendency to
possible.
be unmindful of, being.
So forget killing, let's say any other, because I don't think all of us
Yeah.
are killing on such a large scale,
Mm.
deliberately,
What is under
intentionally.
your foot? You don't
Yeah,
know.
well, what is under the foot, of course, but I'm saying intentionally. But any other non-virtuous action, let's say like
Gossiping.
gossip, yeah, gossip.
Gossiping
So
also,
that amplifies. So that
it
means
amplifies, it does.
Yeah.
It does. Because we engage in gossip very
You can't
frequently.
gossip
Because of the
much.
frequency of that negative act, it's supposed to be potent. Yeah. Because we do it very frequently. Killing, as you said, we rarely do it, or if at all, and we would unintentionally, accidentally kill.
Case where I started gossiping about something, it was like, wow, it was so nice. It was like venting with somebody. It was
Yeah.
just like, you know what happened,
Yeah.
And before I realized it, 2 weeks every day we gossiped.
Yeah.
And then we felt bitter about everything around us. Then we said, oh, this is not okay.
Yeah.
But it, without your knowledge, because it's so pleasurable to get it off your chest and say,
Yeah.
this was not okay. This is, and it's also like gossip is like setting the norm, right? Like, look, we are perfect. Look at what this person is doing. It's like that, right? So it was so
it can be harmful.
I have a tendency.
When we consume media, so much of our media today is gossip. Yeah,
you need to be
don't
mindful
really-
about it.
Like, I mean, you're not forget even Bollywood, like even news, like it's also mixed up. Everything we don't know, like no one's actually factually just telling us the news. It's all so when we consume
We need to be
news,
very
also
mindful about
we
it.
are-
Yes. There's this point that came up in yesterday's discussion also. This thing that Aditi mentioned, if you kill a louse and you don't purify the action, then every day it multiplies. And on the 15th day, it's like 16,000 times more potent than on the first day. And it's the equivalent of having taken the life of a human. Similarly, you don't actually have to just, for you to create negative karma, it's not that you need to engage in the action yourself. You could instruct somebody else, enjoin somebody else to do the action. Even worse is, or even more serious is, rejoicing in somebody else doing a negative action. And what you just mentioned, feeding off media. Media plans, they sell all kinds of stories. And if you rejoice in the actions of a certain political ideology, you need to be mindful about where your mind is. Yeah, you can't rejoice in the actions of other people. And so if you do that, it also creates negative karma. Of course, it's not the same as actually having engaged in the action yourself, but you need to be mindful that that also creates negative karma.
It's very close to actually not doing it or something.
Yeah. So mentally identifying with certain harmful ideologies. Media keeps, throwing that at you. You need to be mindful about. You need to be centered when all these things are happening.
I struggled a bit in the starting with this one, but I think then it became one of the most important characteristics of karma. I did study from a scientific view as well, and then I felt it's really not very difficult to see as well. I mean, for us, the propensity to do an action again becomes very easy the next time.
Yes.
Correct. So that's why we say the karma, when you do it, when you want to do it again, it's exponential. It's not additive. Like when I do it again, because it's so much more easy to maybe steal again or to lie again. That's why the kind of result you're creating is not additive in nature. You've lied twice. Because of the less energy, you actually exponentially create.
Yeah, that's right.
And another thing I also read, there's Dr. Benson who give, right from a scientific point of view. For karma expansion, he also wrote from a perspective of network effect. Like, if I start to eat meat, it will go down to my kids, then it can go down to their kids. So you kind of create a network effect in that.
Correct. Yeah. That's a very important point.
That also means that the person who you're, like, for example, my sister, talking about meat, my family is a meat eating family by choice, not by birth. So they individually at different points of time had, without each other's influence, have traveled around the world and tasted meat and they've started to eat. One must have the karma for it to open there also, right? It's not that it's because it's there. Yeah. Like only maybe till my father drinks coffee, I drink coffee kind of thing. But you also should know that you want to have, I want to taste that. There is something there. But isn't every action that guides you because of the karma? Here it is saying the influence of a person. Does the influence of a person happen if there is no karma for you?
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to.
You don't have to be influenced, no?
You have the choice. Yeah.
That's what she is saying, that you
I
won't
am
be
vegetarian
influenced
my
unless you have
entire
the
life.
karma.
Otherwise, there are these stories where you say people from abject poverty who live in abject, like really bad conditions, and who are not designed to win in life. Because everywhere around them, every situation, cause and condition is saying they're not going to get out of here. But then they come out of it. Let's say it's Oprah Winfrey or a Bala Saheb Ambedkar or some, okay, let's say in music it is Jesudas. They were not given this. Jesudas was not given classical music training. But why did they come out and become one of the best? Because there is a karma involved. Otherwise, and everyone else also has the same kind of like if they were in Madurai, for example, everyone had the same exposure. But why is a Jesudas coming out and singing and becoming a proficient person if his karma was not there?
Yeah.
It's because influence has been there for everyone, but it's only
no,
those
what
ends.
she is saying is,
No.
if I do something bad, then I have the potential to influence, let's say, my children.
And
Yes,
very,
I
very
get
Now,
that.
whether the children get influenced or not, that is in their country. But I have developed the potential
To make it visible.
Yeah.
And it's very
It
easy
becomes
in
normal.
families
It
to
is,
see
it
if
is.
your parents are shouting, you can actually see the kids also developing it very easily. I mean, it just becomes
Correct. Yeah.
very easy for the kids
Yeah.
to take on this.
Yeah. So it's not like we don't have the choice. Yeah, we do have the choice to break out of that pattern. Point that Shagun was mentioning. So you're perpetuating with every negative action that you engage in, you're perpetuating your tendency to engage in a similar action in the future. So you need to be mindful of that, but it does not mean that you can't break out of that cycle. If you're mindful of where your volition is, then you can, with some training, you can break out of that action. But if you leave that attended, with every passing action, the propensity becomes it becomes exponential, as she was saying. So you need to be mindful about that. And then the other factor that she was mentioning, it also has an impact on the environment that you are part of, like influencing other people also to engage in similar kind of actions. So you need to be mindful of that too. But but we need to be, we can break out of that cycle if you're mindful of the volitional states.
Matrix, you're part of a matrix, right? It's not as if we are all individually on our own trip.
Yeah, so
We're
there's
all
something called the collective karma also. Yeah. And that there's a collective karma also. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So it's something that will come in our discussion. We talk about the results, ripened results at the individual level, as well as the environment that you're born in. Yeah. So amplifiability, the example that is mentioned in the text is, okay, if you make a small offering to a very potent kind of basis like a Buddha, yeah, even a small offering of a handful of lentils becomes the cause for that person to enjoy abundance of resources in the future. So there's this example when this person was then born as a Chakravarti in the future life. On the other hand, a monk who is not supposed to be critical of other people, voices criticism overtly. He goes on criticizing people for this voice, calls somebody that your voice is like a frog's croak or a dog's bark or something, a pig's baying or something like that. And for each of those insults that he directed at the other person, he had to take 500 lives, rebirths in a lower realm. So a minor transgression, just being critical, but because of the basis, as in he was supposed to be a person with vows. Yeah, he's taken vows and he's not supposed to be engaging these kind of negative actions. In the other case, the action of generosity was directed at another person who was a very potent basis. And an ordinary person, of course, it will give him some positive experience in the future. But because he made the offering to a Buddha,
Knowing that he was a Buddha.
he probably didn't know.
So then we will all go and give offerings only to the big guys, and we'll just not bother about the.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's what happens. Yeah. So there's this example where Ashoka in his previous life had actually made an offering to one of the past Buddhas, and because of that,
It's a young child when the Buddha was passing by,
yeah,
went and gave. Everyone was giving something.
Yeah.
He didn't have anything to give, so he picked up sand and he went and offered it.
yeah. So amplifiable in that sense. Okay, non-superfluous, yeah. So it's not kind of a redundant concept. Like you can't explain an experience without relying on the principle of karma. Like explain it as chance, yeah. There's no such thing, yeah. So there is some sort of a karmic basis. So it's non-superfluous in that sense.
So not random.
Not random, not arbitrary. Yeah. Experiences are not random. Karma is an essential principle to explain experiences that you have. And then the fourth one was non-erasable. So if you created the karma, unless you purify it, it will yield its result.
By way of
Prayers, confessions, yeah, specific kind of practices, 4 hours.
refuge. First of all, regret,
So reliance, regret.
remedy, and
The last one is remedy.
resolution.
Yeah, the third one is resolve, refrained. Yeah.
And then
Resolve
there's
to the
rejoice also, no?
So what first one is reliance. So in reliance to what basis have you committed the infraction? So I'm a person with vows. Yeah. So my vows have come from Shakyamuni Buddha himself. So if I commit a transgression, I'm kind of going against the advice of that basis. So how do I ensure that doesn't happen? I take refuge in the Buddha. I commit a transgression in relation to you as a fellow sentient being. I'm harming you. It's a transgression. So in order to make sure that doesn't happen, what I do is I rely on cultivating the mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta. So refuge and bodhicitta would be reliance on the basis of which you can purify these transgressions. Second one is regret. So you generate a genuine regret. That becomes the foundation for you to not repeat the action in the future. Third one is refrain. So you resolve that you would not repeat in this similar action in the future, because as Shagun mentioned, with every passing engagement in a similar action, you're just perpetuating your predisposition, your tendency to engage in similar actions in the future. So refrain is the third one, and then remedy. So remedy is what you spoke about. You cultivate specific kind of antidotes to purify them. So confessions, and then reciting of sutras. Cultivating bodhicitta is the best way to compassion and bodhicitta to remedy your transgressions. So those are the 4 R's. So non-erasable is the fourth attribute. Okay, so the 3 doors we have already seen. Let's go to some other ways to understand karma. Okay, so for each of the 10 different karmic paths that we could take, in order for that karmic path to be completed, there are 4 essential components that need to be addressed. So for example, if you engage in the non-virtuous, unwholesome action of killing, there's something called a basis in relation to which that action has to be committed. There's the component of intention. Then there's the component of the actual action. And then there's something called culmination. So in the case of killing, what would be a basis? If you engage in an unwholesome action of killing.
Getting killed.
Yeah, the person distinct from the person who is engaging in the action of killing. Intention again has 3 components to it. There has to be a recognition of the basis as being the person. Yeah, recognition of the basis. Then there's motive, most important. Wanting to kill is the motive. And then it has to be driven by certain affliction. So the affliction driving your wanting to kill could be any of the three delusion or any afflictions. So, for example, attachment could drive your action to kill, wanting to kill. Example?
For killing for child, like someone is harmed.
Attachment.
Fishing
Attachment should be the.
Fishing is an affliction.
Yes, yes. So,
driven by
fondness for meat, yeah? You're fond of meat, you want to consume meat, enjoy it. You would kill a sheep or a chicken to do that. You would want to kill rather, yeah. So it's rooted in attachment, that wanting to kill.
Where this lady, the child was harmed by some men. She walks into the court. There's a video of her. She walks into the court and she takes a gun and she just shoots them from there. That is from the guys who harmed her child. They were apprehended by the police, but she said, I'm not going to let them go because you harm my child. She walks in with a gun and she...
Okay. So that wanting to kill is rooted in a different affliction now. What is?
Affliction of attachment only for my child.
Okay. Maybe it's also primarily driven by anger. Yeah. So it's hatred, the second kind of affliction. Yeah. Good example of hatred driving the want to kill. Or there's delusion. Yeah. Delusion also would trigger your want to kill. Example?
Same one.
Maybe she
Saying
feels
that
the
police-
judge.
Yeah.
Okay.
She is the
Yeah.
one who has to avenge.
Okay. So
Or all the
seeking-
wars, venerable.
yeah. Delusion.
The wars are all delusion only, right?
Yeah. That will create a
And
just
more
society.
If Ukraine becomes part of Ukraine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's also possible. Yeah. Yes.
This is
So a more direct kind of example would be where a person believes that if he sacrifices a chicken, then it pleases the deity. Yeah. So that kind of sacrifice, that kind of belief in a certain kind of ethical system. Yeah. So that in Buddhist terms would be a delusion. Yeah. So delusion there would be the affliction driving the want to kill. So these are the three factors that drive the intention: recognition of the basis, motive, and the affliction. Then there is the action. So example of killing action.
the actual killing.
So the deed itself, the act of killing, but it could be using a hammer to kill the chicken. Could be using a knife. Yeah.
How does that make
Or
it
just
different?
giving some medicine.
Or your bare hands.
Or your bare hands.
How does that make it different?
So it depends on how violent the action is, can
Everything
determine.
is violent. Venerable.
Everything is
Like they're
violent, but the
saying,
intensity, yeah.
Now meat shops say, what does it say? What does it say? Ethically
Halal.
killed.
Halal.
I mean, in the
Allah
sense
is
the
very-
animal is
very
some.
slow, no?
So,
That's what it is.
I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but they say it's,
Not torture them.
oh, I don't know. I am not an authority.
yeah, so the point is that there could be levels of intensity that you could talk about, or violence. Some action of killing would be
Whether
deemed to
you-
be more
Whether
violent.
you just kill a person or whether you are enjoying.
Yeah, it depends. If you're kind of very deliberately torturing the animal, then that
Yeah.
leads to more
Just like that film actor who did it.
And then there's the fourth factor, the culmination. So the basis has to be dead before you are dead. Yeah. So if you die before the basis has died, then the act of killing is not complete, or the karma associated with the act of killing is not complete.
So you won't suffer
the
killing.
yeah,
So if you are in a
you may
war,
suffer other consequences of having maybe given created a condition where that animal has suffered some pain, but not the karmic action of having killed.
Because you died before.
Yeah.
We haven't killed actually.
Yeah.
Then how does it matter? Even if we die, like the mental consciousness is still there, right? So it's not like we're
Yeah, so
we're dead and we're
that's what
gone.
we say.
that's what you will suffer the
other
consequence,
delusions
but the specific
The
consequence of having killed that
Culmination.
sentient being, that is not complete. Yeah.
Completed karma thing that we say that you're going to project because of that karma, that will not happen.
Yeah.
It will be kind of an incomplete karma.
Yeah, incomplete. Yeah. If your recognition is not clear, as in you wanted to kill X, but you mistook Y to be X and you killed Y, even in that case, the act of killing and the karma associated with that action of killing will not be complete. So
then
each
you
of
get the action of killing by.
but you never intended to kill by. So
Like an ant.
so it's like an accidental killing, accidental taking by. So the intensity will be a little low. So you need to kind of be clear about that. So this is about the bodily action. Let's talk about speech. Yeah.
It's the easiest way to, because you lose physical. I don't think you will get involved in so much harm.
Yeah.
Because there is somewhat some kind of a restraint. But from my own experience of the gossip I told you,
No.
it's the easiest way to go into easiest form of negativity that you can, because then it's already there. It's like you're having a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Even idle chatter.
Idle chatter is
From
also.
what I hear about Facebook and stuff,
Yeah.
all seems to be idle
Yeah,
chatter.
yeah.
There's
Most of
nothing
it is gossip.
positive about it
Yeah.
at all.
It's a very negative action, very negative. Because we engage in it so frequently, it is a very potent negative action, actually. Very potent. Think about the act. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Think about lying now. Lying, and think about the 4 components. Now, the basis would be a person who can comprehend what you said. Yeah. So you say something to a chicken, that person, a chicken is a person in Buddhist terms. It's a person, but it cannot comprehend the meaning of what you're saying. Yeah. And you then there is the recognition of some fact that you want to deny, maybe something that exists, which you know that it exists, but you want to kind of deny its existence, claim that it is not existence. Then there's a motive to want to lie. Yeah. And it could be rooted in one of the 3 afflictions. So example of wanting to lie driven by attachment.
Make money.
Make money, yeah. Yeah, you want to make money and you cheat people. Reputation, yes. Anger or hatred.
Jealousy.
Jealousy also could be an affliction that could drive. So anyways, you get the idea that it could be any of the afflictions.
Yes, anger is because of professional jealousy.
Yeah.
Because one is getting recognized more than the other.
Okay, and then there's the deed, of course. You need to voice the lie. And that needs to be heard by the person towards whom the lie is being directed. And the culmination is that that person has to have understood the import, the meaning of that lie. So that's how all the 4 factors would be then complete.
Yeah. Like there was something that should be said and you didn't say.
Yeah, even that.
You want to deceive the other.
Correct.
person.
Yeah. Even concealing truth would be part of this. Then the mental action of covetousness, for example. Yeah. Think about the 4 factors. The basis would be
Wanting.
a basis.
Great.
Basis.
Would be the object.
Benefit out of it.
Okay, you covet somebody else's property, for example.
Let's
Yeah.
say you want what they have.
Yeah. So the property is the basis.
Yes.
Yeah. Recognition that that property is what you desire and it belongs to not you, but to somebody else. That's the recognition. Motive is wanting to grasp it, own it. What are the 3 afflictions that could drive this covetousness? Wanting,
Desire.
greed, yes. Desire. Then example.
Delusions.
Delusion is okay. I'm like you think that okay, I have a right. Yeah, I deserve it more than he does. Yeah.
Bring you happiness.
Yeah, it could. Yeah.
Which blinds you from seeing that it's actually affecting somebody else.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is a good example where you feel that you have the right to that property. Yeah. You do not worry about, okay, this guy is lower in the hierarchy or some other, some stupid reason. And you believe that you have a right for that property. So that's a delusion that drives your wanting to own that property. And then this is a mental action, right? So the thought that how nice it would be if I have that property. And then the deed would be to make it more intense. Yeah. And the culmination would be where you actually resolve to do anything to make that property your own. So that's how the 4 components will be completed. If any one of these is missing, then the action is not complete. So you can think about similar 4 factors for the other karmic paths. Yeah. Okay, the other kinds of divisions of karma. So you can think about karma as being heavier or lighter. And these could be determined. The determinants for heaviness or lightness of a karma could be the intention with which you engage in that action, the actual deed, the basis in relation to which that action is committed, the nature of the action itself, whether it's killing or stealing or lying or whatever, the frequency with which that action is committed, and whether the action is committed by a person who is absolutely devoid of the need to invoke any kind of antidote against that action. So there are 6 determinants. Can you give
Determinants for
determining whether a specific karmic action is either heavy or light? So killing, for example, is a heavier action. It leads to heavier negative karma as compared to lying, yeah, or stealing. Yeah. So all these 7 actions of the body and speech: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, in that order, and then the 4: stealing, harsh speech, idle gossip, the last one. So the idle gossip would be the lightest in terms of its entity. But because idle gossip is engaged in more frequently, because the frequency, it becomes a heavy karma over a period of time. So by nature, idle gossip is a light karma, but because of frequency, it becomes a heavy karma. Intention could determine whether an action is heavy or light. Can you give me an example? Intention?
For idle gossip?
Any.
So like walking in a park and stepping on bugs, you never intended to harm them.
like intending to kill a chicken and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
running over
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Correct. So accidentally doing it, or intentionally kind of doing it. Or even minor negative actions, directing an insult at somebody. Yeah? If it is done out of just pure delusion or just for the sake of fun, or if it is done out of anger, maliciousness, the one that is driven by anger would be more heavy. Yeah.
Well, of course, all of this is very straightforward in one sense for me. But let's say I'm talking again from an experience of a friend of mine who's born with mental challenges. Childhood friend. Now, this child, when he was in his teenage years, we used to hang out with other boys in the area. He was my neighbor. He was at that time regarded, I don't know what the term is right now, mentally retarded. But he was physically all okay.
Okay.
So he never knew what he was doing was either there was no discernment there because he was taking time to figure it out. We had to have lots of chats with him. He got into trouble a lot of times. Where he was seen like harassing girls because these boys used to give him letters to go give people, and he got into trouble a lot.
Right.
But here, even if it was something worse, this person per se doesn't realize what they are doing. They're engaging in the action. He could have gotten into a lot more trouble, but his parents stepped in and helped him out and all that. But then he could have gotten into a lot more action. He did what others told him to do because he wanted to be friends with them or appear cool. 15-year-old, but with the mind of a 7 or an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
So what in such a situation, what would you do?
So that's it's very clearly explained even in the Vinaya that we follow. There are all these vows that we have. Transgressions for certain kind of vows committed by a monk who is not in a normal mental state it's not deemed to be a transgression. But for certain actions, that is not material.
It's deeming it. It's like we're talking like who is deeming it?
So there's like in the case of the Vinaya, the assessment is done by the Bhikshu Sangha.
Right, but we're still talking of karma right now. Like in the sense, we're talking about karma.
I'm giving an example that even in this kind of application of a certain kind of ethical conduct, in a person who is not in the right mental state, if he,
So he doesn't have the 10 endowments and 8 freedoms. So he is, he doesn't have them.
Right.
He doesn't have maybe mental faculty, but he
so even the law of karma, if he engages in a negative action, he doesn't recognize the basis, for example, or the recognition is not clear, his motive is not clear. So the act of engaging in that negative action will not yield the negative karma actually. Let's say he's killing somebody or stealing something. Because he is not in the right state, those 4 factors, components that we spoke about, they would not be complete. And the karma from that action, if it were committed by somebody else with a sound mental state, that would
sound mental state. But at that time, like this boy from Pune who rammed his car into someone in a very highly inebriated state. Now he's under, not even in a typical normal state, but he's in a highly toxic state of mind. That would then be more, right? Because he's under the influence, and though he doesn't realize what he's doing, and for him it was just like a
long
video
string of misdeeds. You shouldn't have been drinking over there in the first place.
That's a different thing, right? He's physically kind of compromised. But we are talking about a situation where the monk who is engaging in that action is kind of he has a
regular boy, her friend.
Yeah, even that. Yeah,
But
he's
he is also suffering the karma of some past karma, which is why he has, though he is a human, he is not. He's born without all his faculties.
So even our regular law kind of deals with you can plead insanity, and then if you can establish that you were insane when that act was committed. Yeah, there's power. But it's okay. I think we'll stop in another 5 minutes.
And correct. It's the same for animals, right? They don't have the intention to kill.
Yeah.
It's just their instinct that they they will kill and eat.
Absolutely.
So otherwise, they'll never be able to
feed them.
Finish their negative karma.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So there also the intention is not clear, as in it's the instinct was. Eat. Yeah.
Just instinctively.
Exactly. It's different completely.
And there are also proof that sometimes you could be sitting next to a tiger who's satiated and he will not even bother you.
Yes, that's right.
Not an important person.
That's right. Yeah.
They are man-eaters, right? So, and of course, like other animals, only when you poke and
animals attack only when they're either hungry or they're threatened under fear for their own safety. That's when they actually,
So, every action is actually do we have a neutral action, or like every action it's going to repay the good or bad karma? Like neutral
motivated actions, like so there are neutral actions like this is an action. I just lift the water bottle.
Okay.
But that does not lead to any kind of karma. Okay. It has to be a motivated kind of action.
But if he had the intention to
hit you
and he picked up the bottle,
that
even if he doesn't throw it at you, let's say someone came in or something, but he will still suffer the karma of the intention of hitting you, even though he hasn't actually hit you, but he has picked the bottle with the intention.
Okay.
Intention is already there.
Intention is already there.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello, sorry, can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Talking about His Holiness always talks about world religions and everything is to be included. But there are some world religions where there is a very strong belief, and this probably I'm talking about wrong belief. I judge it as wrong belief. Where people say that if you do not follow what we say and our law, then you are there's a word for it, I don't forget. Then you have left the religion, so you need to be straightened out. So this is the way, there is a punishment. They believe very strongly in that, and there are some far right bodies in India also that believe in the same way. But so in terms of like saying, how can we accept that? Because they're harming human beings, or they're beating up someone because they eat beef or whatever. But they believe very strongly in it.
Yes.
So now, if you look at it from the law of karma, and this is again, people may argue this is just a Buddhist perspective. That one perspective may say, no, this man had to be punished because he killed a cow and he ate it, kind of a thing. But the Buddhist perspective will say, no matter what, this is not killing is just not okay, let's say. How do we resolve this?
Resolve what?
within these two ideologies, what do you believe? I mean, because what do you agree with?
So
Because
what, killing a cow is bad, but killing everyone
human
else is
beings, yeah,
okay?
that's the way they have kind of they believe it very strongly. I have people who believe in it very strongly. I'm surrounded by that.
Irrespective of religion, we know killing is wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Not really, not really.
So
Many
there are so
people
many
do
religions
know.
that condone killing. There are so
Yeah,
many
there's so many religions
where-
that are
where
even in
it's
India.
Not being, I think,
That is
just
my value saying I
constantly-
don't want to kill.
Okay,
But
so the way I see it, and please tell
Yeah,
me
yeah,
if the law of karma is going to
Apply.
apply to all of
Everyone.
us.
Yes.
Whether you are this
Yeah.
religion or that religion or Buddhist
Yeah.
or whatever,
Yeah.
it is going to apply.
So
Now,
it's-
I might be a religion which believes that yes, it's okay to kill on my festival days, and I might, but that doesn't mean that I will get away from
Yeah. Yeah.
suffering the karma of it. I just don't know about it. Whereas you are a Buddhist, you know all this, so you are
Ignorance
going to
doesn't-
not do these
Ignorance
things.
doesn't exempt you, like her
Uh,
example. Actually, it's quite interesting.
Hmm.
Like if you feel that this is the right thing to do,
Hmm.
that on this particular festival, I've got to do this sacrifice.
Yeah.
Then my mind is a good thing to do. Why should
Yeah.
I be punished for it later?
Yeah.
No,
So
but the law of karma is
Hold on,
applying to
let me-
you
let
also.
me-
no?
let me-
yes.
Yeah.
So, like we spoke about this exemption in the case of insanity. Yeah.
Hmm.
For even people with vows like us, there are certain transgressions that we exempted, as in those transgressions would not be deemed as transgressions because the monk was not in the ideal mental state. But there are other actions, irrespective of what mental state that person was in, it will be deemed to be a transgression. So if he violates a
Mental state. This is a
no, I'm just
conviction.
giving an example. So we will take that further. Yeah. So for example, if you were to engage in an act of sexual misconduct, it's a root violation for the monk. Irrespective of whether the monk was in a proper mental state or not, root vow gone. Yeah. The intention, the mental state at that during that action does not matter. So take that argument forward. Yeah, law of karma is a law of nature. It doesn't have to do anything with any kind of belief system. Yeah? It is a rule of nature. It is a
So
natural
the
law.
intention doesn't matter.
The intention in certain actions, for example, when you kill something intentionally, yeah, just because his belief system says that okay, killing a cow is okay, or killing a dog is okay.
Not
Law?
okay. It's good.
It's good.
It's
Yeah,
good, it's
that's his
required.
belief system. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the law of karma will not, it does not recognize that kind
The
of.
law of cause and effect only on things that
It's a
are-
natural law.
It's a got it.
It's a natural
But
law.
gravity for isn't it?
But when you
Not
put so
observable,
much
it's
emphasis
not
on
observable.
intention,
It's not
then here
formless,
there's a
right? This
conflict.
energy.
No,
The intention is very honorable.
the intention, again, as I said, in certain actions like sexual misconduct does not matter. If he's engaged in a sexual misconduct, the monk, his root vow is gone. He
Yeah,
might
but
be
that's
intending
become
to.
like a good intention at any time.
Whatever.
Sexual misconduct.
Right.
Right. But
No, maybe he's done it with the intention of helping the other
this,
person. You don't know. He might
this
have got into some
example-
sort of a
no,
mental.
the specific
Which
example,
example?
this is quite interesting.
Which example?
The one that you just mentioned.
Right. If the religion prescribes
Exactly.
you to
Exactly.
kill someone,
Exactly.
but that's the thing. No, as
Because
a
the intention is very honorable. It's religious.
no.
It's propitiating
Religious,
your
So as
deity
a
or
sentient being, should I not know that killing whatever
whatever. But
goat?
obviously you don't, because it's come down through the centuries.
But then that
You
means
feel
I'm
that
not
this is the right
using.
thing to
I'm
do.
not using.
In
I mean,
fact, you would feel that you're doing the wrong thing by not doing it. Isn't it? So then,
I think
then
there's a
what
lot of
happens there?
indoctrination that is in play in such a situation
Yeah.
that we don't account for. Because I've seen it. I'm in RSS territory, I'm sorry to say. There is so much indoctrination that people believe what they are thinking is the only way to be. Their hatred for another religion, their hatred for anything that is not Hindu, for example, is so, I'm talking indoctrination in that level. They don't mind doing anything malicious and harmful in any way as long as their religion is forward. So that indoctrination is. So I think that will take time and a lot of that's also attachment, right? My God
they'll
is
be
more
exempt, is it?
Right.
Those people will
But
be
it's-
but
exempt.
if you're talking about physical law,
still different
that's what
from-
I'm not, that's my problem is if we are talking cause and effect, there's a law
Mm.
that is governing
Mm.
karma. then isn't it, and this is again I don't know about this properly, isn't it on physical things, but not on, how is this intention getting into cause and effect? Because it's a mental thing. How is that cause and effect could affect physical entities, I think, but how is it that it becomes with all your thoughts and actions?
Because you're programming your mind to be like that.
That's where it starts,
What
right?
is prayer? Prayers
The
are
physical action is rooted in the intention. So intention is
Very
critical.
powerful.
That's the
But
root.
it's not observable, right?
That
Like,
doesn't
I can't
matter.
understand
It's
how.
energetic.
Mind is
It's energetic.
I don't understand.
But that means all the
If we-
RSS people are
if we
exempt, is it? Because they are
bypass
indoctrinated
over
poor
there,
things.
very sincere.
law of
Can't
nature
be
doesn't
now.
make that
Changes
discrimination,
the
right?
atmosphere.
You
Right.
have the motive to kill, and you harmed an animal, you shortened its lifespan, and you will incur the proportionate result. It doesn't matter whether you're a religious system. It's a belief system, right? It's just some approximation of beliefs that you have, and you adhere to them as being right. But that does not exempt you from consequences that law of karma would lead to.
I don't know, because maybe I'm very ignorant on this. I don't understand how energy gets.
So why do you do pujas over here?
I don't.
You have some
Oh,
days
yeah.
only for puja. Why do you do puja?
I think
what
I'm
are you
doing it not with complete understanding. Let me
You're
admit to that.
generating energy. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
The whole concept of it is generating energy.
Mind itself is intangible,
Yes.
right? Non-physical.
Very powerful.
And its components, intention, volition, are all non-physical. Yeah.
That's why they say that these are arihants, right?
Arhats, yeah. Mm.
And these other, highly spiritual beings in various parts of, especially this country. They are the ones, their energies and their strength of, their purity of mind is mitigating a lot of the harm that is being done over here. Otherwise, it would be a mess.
Why don't they
There's
just do
no
it?
way
Why
this
don't they
country
mitigate
can-
all of it then? Why just
That's
still a
really
lot.
energy.
Yes.
One person of
Yeah.
that caliber
Correct,
mitigates
yeah.
10,000 such needs.
So it's like a light bulb. The power of it is only this
Have
much.
you read this book? Power and Energy.
You drive here in
I don't
Bangalore.
understand energy. Sorry.
Power and
I understand
It's a beautiful book.
I feel
And
Maybe
it's a
I
scientific
another.
Just
force,
drive in
power and
Bangalore.
force.
Okay.
Please pick up a copy of
Yeah.
that. It's amazing. It actually quantifies, it actually quantifies each thought of, and our levels of understanding, our levels of purity, our levels of energy, and what impact it makes on those around us.
Okay, we'll
Power and
slowly
force.
wind up. Yeah, it's already 12:35, 37. So there's another. Yeah.
Can go on.
Yeah.
The topics of
May I
Yeah, there
pick
is
up a copy for you the next time you come?
Sure. Yeah. I can
Yeah.
read it.
I'll try and get it from
Yeah, if
Amazon.
you have one, I can borrow it.
I don't like borrowing books. I
Okay.
don't like lending
Okay.
books. I've had terrible experiences with
Okay.
people lending.
Yeah.
The person has just sort of, eliminated me from their lives. Power and force.
Bye.
That's what I can't remember. I'm terrible with names.
So there's
Power
this
and force.
another
Look it up.
division of karma that I would just mention. Maybe we'll wind up after that. So there's something called throwing karma and completion karma. Impelling karma, projecting karma,
Amazon.
or completion karma. So
What? Projecting.
karma. So if you engage in virtuous actions, then it leads to rebirth in
It's a blue
one
book.
of the higher realms. Yeah, projects a rebirth in the higher realm. Or if you engage in non-virtuous, unwholesome actions, then it projects a rebirth in the lower realm. So that's a projecting karma.
You also buy that.
And there's something called completion karma. So completion karma is after having been reborn in a certain realm, the kind of conditions that you experience. Yeah, you could be born in a fortunate realm as a human, but you could be born into misery, miserable conditions. So what is causing that? It's the function of what is called the completion karma. The throwing karma or the impelling karma, projecting karma has projected a good rebirth because of virtuous actions from the past. But some completion karma, because it was negative, means that although you're born as a human, you still have miserable conditions to experience. So there are different combinations of these two kinds of karmas. Can you think about what combinations these two karmas? You could have virtuous throwing karma and virtuous completion karma. What would be the result of these two? An example?
Virtuous throwing karma.
And virtuous completion karma.
Virtuous.
Yes, yeah.
Why rich?
No, richness
very,
Having a precious human rebirth.
Huh?
Having precious human rebirth.
Yes. Throwing karma. Human rebirth is the function of throwing karma. Completion
All
karma.
these people
Virtuous.
people
He is
in their
born
end up
in a very virtuous family where, all good things
Yeah.
are like
Okay.
in terms of good teaching,
Yes.
good behavior, moral
Yes,
ethics are very
Yeah.
high.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good example. Example
Could
of
one have two both? Could one have both?
Of course,
Meaning?
what is both?
Effects of both at the
Yes,
same
yes.
birth?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would think like
Yes.
someone like His Holiness probably good family and also
Yes,
very
yeah, yeah.
enlightened.
Yes. So an example of virtuous throwing karma, a result of a virtuous throwing karma, and the result of a non-virtuous completion karma. What would be an example? Think.
That would be like these rich
Very
people
bad
talking.
life,
The
subject poverty,
super
Yeah.
rich.
poor conditions,
Yes.
bad life,
Poverty.
in poverty, maybe also physical defects,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
but has precious human rebirth.
Yeah, human rebirth in poverty. Yeah, that could be an
Or maybe
example.
the RSS types might be very rich humans, but given to
Animal instinct.
whatever.
Okay, let's talk about the reverse. Good completion karma, but non-virtuous.
Really rich and everything, but vain.
Throwing karma, remember, throwing karma is responsible for rebirth in lower or higher realms. Yeah. So if the throwing karma happens to be negative or non-virtuous, then it will lead to
Animals.
rebirth in the lower realms. So as an animal, for example. But an animal born
Into
in
a good family.
in a good family with rich. Yeah. So a dog born in a rich household. Yeah, he's got nice facilities and amenities and all that. Somebody taking care of him would be the would be the result of a good completion karma, but non-virtuous throwing karma. What about both being non-virtuous? Example?
Then you're in bad street.
Scorpion.
Scorpion. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Hell beings in the hell realms. So, yeah. So combinations of these two. And there are other classifications of
Combinations and gradations.
gradations also
Gosh, so
possible.
complex.
Yes.
Venerable, this sorry, one question I have.
Yeah.
Hungry ghosts can be human beings also. I feel that there are so many hungry ghosts around.
Hungry goes
Can be in human form.
in the human form, that in the human realm.
In
Possible.
human form. As
Human form?
You don't feel when you
People
look at
with
certain
eating
people
disorders,
or
Venerable.
hear- No,
Okay.
there's nothing to do with eating.
Want to walk.
It's nothing to do, it's just to do with grasping and having and
Or
living and
those are hungry.
That's a human. That's a human with a heavy disposition of a hungry propensity.
Yes,
Propensity.
Already.
Yeah, but the ripened result, yeah, ripened result is a human, but excessive predisposition towards the tendencies of propensities of a hungry person. Yeah, possible.
Venerable, sometimes can you please take this thing of the different realms?
Yeah, yeah.
They're
We'll,
just so
Yeah.
like, I mean, I've not
I
except
also want a
for
refresher in that.
Yeah.
human realm, I don't
Yeah.
know any other, and of course animals.
Yeah.
I don't know any. The other ones, I don't know what to think of it. Are those mind states? Are they actually spaces?
these are
We had a
critical
discussion
states.
2 weeks ago on this, right? When we met.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll also continue the wheel.
If you can incorporate it in your whatever, like regular
Yeah,
what you
we'll
are
do that.
to make
It was actually supposed to be part of our discussion. We haven't completed it. Maybe we'll take it forward in the
That's
next
quite a
session. Yeah.
different kind of a session.
Okay, let's wind up because there are people online also.
Stop all these discussions. Now.
Okay, so let's just do a short dedication. Yeah. So just take a moment to recollect what we've discussed today and rejoice in the fact that we've participated in this discussion. And be sure that we've accumulated some merit in the process. So let's direct that merit So due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all sentient beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that is not arisen, arise and grow, and may that which is arisen not diminish but increase more. Yeah, let's all pray for the long life of our precious gurus, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and all the other gurus that we have, and pray for the swift reincarnation, swift identification of the reincarnation of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And while we are at it, let's also pray for the good rebirth of all the people who've lost their lives in natural calamities, like the earthquake that happened yesterday in Burma and Thailand, and also people who have lost lives in other areas of political conflict. Let all of them be reborn in fortunate realms and be connected with the spiritual path. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. You know, if your mic hadn't conked out, we wouldn't have had this kind of a session.
No, we are just few of us, so we could still align.
Spons.
Tolerating all our questions.
No, it's good that we have a discussion like that. It's better than being a monologue. Yeah. Monologue can be tiring for both parties.
Yeah, but you must have prepared, so
It's
much
okay.
more. And
That's
you
okay.
have
We can
questions.
continue it later. Also, we're in no hurry to complete.
That's true.
So karma are very
Karma is a very
fascinating, never ending.
Yeah.
Venerable Kalden, thank you for coming
Very
this
complex.
weekend. And yesterday was very, I'm sure, as a teacher, I would find it very stressful. Venerable Kalden had one student.
And I expected that.
So thank you. Despite whatever was happening, you came and you taught us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Venerable, please. Venerable.
Offer it back to the
sure,
center. Yeah.
sure. Venerable, this is from our center for robes offering to all the teachers we've given. Please accept this.
Thank you. This one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Please come back soon, Venerable.
Yeah.
Yes, please come back soon.
When are you back?
Is it? I think I'm doing the final couple of sessions for this course. It's maybe in another 20 days, 25 days. Okay.
25 days, a month.
For a month.
Yeah, because you got this online.
Okay.
online.
Thank you very much, everyone online. Yeah. See you next time. Yeah. I pause.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.